I'm Blaine Parrish, the president here at informXL, and we are doing a webinar today with HMS Cornerstone. We've done these webinars year after year, at least once a year for many years. For those of you who heard how long I've been in the industry, I haven't been doing webinars that long with HMS, but it's been a while. This year we're going to focus on the Power Platform for home builders. Okay, so that is our topic today. I'm assuming everyone can see my screen. I'm going to leave my camera on as well, just to kind of keep it a little more personal for those of you who are attendees. But you can see my screen. Yes, I'll go ahead and dial in or start up here. Okay. And then we've got a chat. I've got the chat window open. And Kay, if folks are typing questions in chat, please feel free to interrupt me throughout the presentation. All right, so the agenda. What are we going to cover today? So this is the agenda. I'm going to kind of list through, talk real quickly about each of these here in a second, but I'm going to start off by saying I'm going to keep this particular presentation high level. If you are already an advanced Power BI user, you know about the Power Platform, Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate. You work with it all day, every day. This may not be the webinar for you. And part of the reason why I'm going to really kind of try to keep this high level is Stuart, very politely, as he is always very polite, even when he's correcting you. The other day I was talking to Stuart, and he very politely reminded me that he said, Blaine, you got to keep in mind, not all of your customers really understand the tech the way that you do, or they don't necessarily understand the informXL product suite the way that maybe you think they do. And that reminder was important, right? It was important as I step into this presentation that my guess is the majority of the folks, the majority of you on the call are going to fall into the camp of you don't know a whole lot about Power BI, right? You don't know a whole lot about the Power Platform, but a few of you will. So I'm going to be catering this to those who really, this is kind of an introduction to Power BI, the Power Platform from Microsoft. And so again, if you're an advanced user, if you drop off, no one's going to be offended. So the agenda, let me grab my little laser pointer here. The agenda, we're going to talk about what Power BI is. So what is Power BI? Who uses Power BI? We're going to talk about Power BI data sources, so all the different ways that you can and types of data you can connect to. How to get Power BI. Okay, so how do I download this? How do I install it? What does it cost? Right. So we're going to talk about that. The items here in blue are going to be when I jump into some examples. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I can quickly kind of create a Power BI report. And then I'm going to show you how your users would consume Power BI reports. So a couple of examples there. Then we're going to jump into Power Apps and talk a little bit about Power Automate, but we're going to jump into a couple of examples of Power Apps. Okay, and then last, I'll leave you with some resources for getting started. I think at the end of this, Kay is going to send out a survey, and as part of that survey, she'll send some of the links, or at least one of the links that I have at the end of the presentation as additional examples for everybody. All right. So first things first, the Microsoft Power Platform. What is the Power Platform? It's a set of tools in Office 365 that allow you to create reports using Power BI. So Power BI is a report writing tool, a report publishing tool. Okay. The Power Platform is also Power Apps. That's exactly what it says. It's an app building tool. Okay, so you build simple apps. We build some complicated apps too, but you can build primarily simple code-free apps. We're going to talk about that. And the Power Platform also includes Power Automate. And what is Power Automate? This is a workflow engine to allow you to create workflows and automate tasks. Okay, so the Power Platform actually extends a little bit beyond what I'm showing here. There's Power Virtual Agents. There's kind of the newer launch and kind of the big to do right now in development circles is Power Pages. It's a way for you to be able to create websites and web pages for team members, kind of internal stuff, or for vendors, etc. But this is what we're going to focus on today, and this is the more mature piece of the Power Platform: Power BI for reports, Power Apps for app development, and Power Automate for task automation and workflows. Okay. Oh, can we come back to this? The majority of our time today, I am going to spend on Power BI. Okay, so I'm going to methodically go through this because I think this is really kind of where everyone's at, although we're seeing a lot of activity in the Power App arena ourselves. Okay, so focusing kind of on Power BI here. What is Power BI? So again, it's a reporting platform. It allows you to write reports and then publish reports for your team members. Those reports are going to be very interactive. So one of the things with Power BI is that it's not just a static reporting environment. There's filters and click-throughs and drill-throughs and sub-reports. And you're going to see as I go through my example of some of the things that you can do from an interactive standpoint. And I'll barely scratch the surface, right? But it's an interactive reporting environment, not the old school PDF type reporting environments, right, that many of us are accustomed to. It's going to be a very interactive type environment. Okay, Power BI is highly visual. You've got an example over there on your right. Okay, so these are generally visual reports, but you're not limited to just charts and graphs. You can see in my example over on the right that there's a data table in there, right? So you can make them as visual as you want. You can make them as data, kind of like raw data focused as you want, table driven as you want, right? But generally speaking, when we're working with Power BI, we're making the reports highly visual. I should probably have an asterisk on this next item of code free. Okay, this is one of the beautiful things about Power BI is that it is really intended to kind of bring down the level of development and coding that has historically been required for advanced reporting. So for the most part, you can get 95% of what you need out of Power BI, or what most folks are going to get out of Power BI without having to write code. That includes SQL code, right? That's going to include web code, if you will, to drive your web pages. There is a coding component to Power BI, so yes, you can dive into that, but for the most part, you can write the majority of the reports you need without code, right? So it's going to introduce report writing to a broader audience. One other item here is it's cloud-based, which is beautiful because cloud-based reporting means that it's available across the organization, whether you're in the field, you're in the office, you're on your mobile device, right? So being that it's cloud-based, it's going to be web-based, it's going to be mobile friendly, and it's highly available. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit about the analyzers because I think the vast majority of the folks on the call are informXL users, and you're very familiar with the analyzers. It's a great reporting tool, but it is not cloud-based. It is PC-based. You've got to have the app, you've got to have Excel, right? And that has left a lot of folks in any given home building organization out of the reporting world, right? That we've created with those analyzers because they don't have access to Excel. Not everybody does, right? My guess is the majority of you on the call today, probably everyone on the call, is sitting in a back office. Well, that only represents a small portion of your users, or of what could be reporting users, all your field construction personnel, sales personnel, warranty folks out in the field, right? So being that that Power BI is cloud-based, we can now start to introduce the reporting, some of this advanced reporting to those users. And the other thing is that it's integrated with Microsoft Office quite well, and I'll show some examples of that here. Okay. The last thing that I could have put a bullet on and kind of highlighted, but I hesitated, was that development is fast, right? You can develop reports quickly, but I think that it would be misleading to say that, hey, you can punch these reports out super quick. We work with this all day, every day. We're pretty quick at it, but still they require some time and attention to get them exactly the way you want, with all the drill downs, etc. Microsoft's little kind of catchphrase is 5 minutes to wow with Power BI. I'll tell you, you're not gonna be able to publish a report or a dashboard that's going to completely wow your organization in 5 minutes, right? But that's Microsoft's little tag there, is 5 minutes to wow. So these reports are relatively quick to bring to market, right? Or to bring to your users. So next, who uses Power BI? Okay, there's two primary uses of Power BI. There's report creators and then there's report consumers. Okay, so the creators are going to be your more technical individuals. They generally come from finance, purchasing, or IT, okay? They've got a background or some training in writing reports, or maybe just some specific training in Power BI, but those are going to be the folks that will generally write the report. So in any given organization, we typically see, maybe one person, two people. In a larger organization, you might have 3 or 4. I'm talking large, I'm talking very large, right? If you're doing 5,000 homes, 10,000 homes a year, you might have 3 or 4 report creators, right? But we see a lot of builders who have 0 report creators and instead outsource it, okay? But at the end of the day, you're going to have report creators who develop the reports, are more technical, okay? And then you're going to have report consumers. And we're going to look at Power BI from both perspectives, from the creator perspective. What does the creator have to do to create a report? And then how do the users consume reports? Now, I alluded a little bit in the last slide to this idea that Power BI is going to start to allow you to bring more advanced reporting to folks outside the office. And that's why I chose this icon here. If you kind of look at this icon from the standpoint of this person in the middle represents maybe your back office, okay? Maybe your typical analyzer users, or if you're using Data Mart internally, the informXL Data Mart, right? This is going to be the crew that primarily has consumed those tools. And again, unfortunately, we've left out probably another 70% of every organization, which has got sales teams. You've got construction team members, you've got warranty folks, maybe you have mortgage folks who have kind of been left out of the reporting world. And the nice thing is, again, with Power BI, being that it's web-based, being that it's mobile friendly, you can publish reports and start to introduce the other 70% of your organization to the data that they've not necessarily had access to, or many of them have not had access to the way your back office users have over the years. Right? So you're going to have your report creators and your report consumers. Okay. What types of data can I connect to? This is one of the powerful features of Power BI, is that you don't have to just have a bunch of data sitting perfectly in a database, right? Perfect, clean data in a database in order to build reports. You can connect Power BI to spreadsheets, although I would not necessarily suggest it. My preference is always, of course, to get the data out of your spreadsheets and into a proper database. But the reality of the world we live in is that sometimes the data you need to report on is just sitting in a spreadsheet. And the nice thing is you can point Power BI to a spreadsheet as one of your data sources. Okay. You can, of course, point Power BI to a database. Generally speaking, we point to SQL databases. Our preference, of course, is the informXL Data Mart. Maybe a shameless plug there, but you want to have data in a database that's going to be easy to work with, and we feel that the SQL Data Mart, informXL Data Mart, is going to bring that to you. But you don't have to have a pre-organized data mart to connect to. You can connect, if you're a Newstar user, to your raw Newstar database, right? Or if you want to go connect to any sort of raw database, you certainly can. It's just going to require more work. To build the reports, to form the data, to join the different tables together, et cetera, right? But you do have, of course, the ability to point Power BI and connect it to database data. And then the last piece here is cloud data. So many of us already work with multiple cloud platforms. That might be Salesforce, it might be Google Analytics, you might want to pull in data from SurveyMonkey, and a lot of your large software providers are going to make their cloud data available through an API. A lot of those larger cloud platforms have a direct connect into the Power BI platform, and I'll show you some examples of that. Right. So the nice thing again is you can take Power BI and connect it to multiple types of data, even in one report. You could have some data that pulls from a spreadsheet, the data pulls out, some data that pulls out of your database, and the data that's pulling out of the cloud, right, into a single, into a single report. Okay. Next, how do I get Power BI? Okay, so remember there are 2 types of users. We talked about those. You've got your report creators and your report consumers. Your report creators are going to utilize the Power BI desktop tool. And I'm going to open this up and show it to you here in a minute, right? But they're going to have to download and install and develop reports using the Power BI desktop tool, which is made available free. Let me see if I can. Can I click on that and download? I don't know if I can. Let me turn off my pen, my laser pointer there. Yeah, I can, right? And I've got a link here. You just Google it, right? Power BI desktop download, right? But I could download this right now if I need to. Okay, so your report, we'll go ahead and close this out. Your report creators are going to need to download Power BI desktop, and that's a free download. Now, you can't publish the reports to your users, okay, your consumers, unless you subscribe to Power BI across your organization. So a report creator can create a report and use it for themselves. But again, the power of Power BI is really that you can spread the reports out, share them across the organization. And when you're ready to do that, you're ready to give your report consumers access to the reports that you've written or that somebody's written, you need to have a subscription. Okay. The nice thing is the Power BI platform is available as an app in your Office 365 subscription. Okay, so everyone is probably familiar with Office 365. Not every builder that we work with is using Office 365. Some are still on the old school platform of Office where you just bought Office 19 or Office 16. We even have some customers that are still running Office 13, right? But the latest platform of Microsoft Office is Office 365, which still provides you with access to your Word, your Excel, your Outlook, your Teams environment, right? But the difference being that it is a subscription that you pay for monthly or annually for your users, and you get automatic updates, right, with 365. But the nice thing with Office 365 is that it's very easy to add on additional apps. And some of those apps, of course, can be are part of the Power BI platform is part of those apps that you can just add to your subscription. Okay. When we talk about cost, Power BI, we believe, is incredibly affordable. There's two kind of flavors of Power BI. There's Power BI Pro, which generally runs $10 per user per month. Okay. And then Power BI Premium, which is $20 per user per month. Premium does have a few features that can be nice for some of your users. You can pick and choose what users have access to what, Premium or Pro. The Premium is going to maybe bring some AI components in amongst some other features, right? But the majority of the deployments that we're working with our builders, the majority of them are on the $10 per user per month platform. So again, I look at this and say, wow, this is incredibly affordable to be able to get into. Once your users have subscribed to it, they will be able to access any reports that are published using your browser, so Chrome or Edge. You can also access reports through Microsoft Teams. So, if you're big into Teams, you can just have connectors to your reports directly in Teams. And then, of course, your mobile devices, which is, I think, one of the big advantages of the Power Platform is they've made everything very mobile friendly. Okay, and so that $10 per user per month is going to get you kind of full access across the spectrum of the reports that you create. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create a report. So I'm going to take the perspective of that report creator. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but I will kind of show you the general kind of concept of how you utilize, open up Power BI, desktop, how you connect to a data source, and how you start to create a report. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open up my Power BI desktop instance. I've got another screen. I'm going to drag it over here. Okay, so of course I have downloaded Power BI. Okay, I'll go ahead and expand this out. I've downloaded Power BI desktop. When I open it up, this is the screen that I'm brought to. Okay, and they make it pretty easy. They basically say, hey, where's your data, right? So you want to write a report, where's your data? Okay, and I can click on one of these icons, but I wanted to show you, some of the things I talked about is all the different types of data that you can connect to, right? And I wanted to show you some examples of that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, say get data from another source, not just one of these, because remember I mentioned lots and lots of sources of data can be pulled into Power BI, okay? And that's what's popping up here. So what I'm looking at right here is the list of every data source that they have a pre-built connector to, but let's just kind of organize this. When we look at this from a file standpoint, remember I mentioned you can get data from spreadsheets. If you wanted to connect your Power BI report to some spreadsheet that you've got, right, you can do that. Okay, if you wanted to connect it to a CSV file, or maybe you've got something, I've never done this before, but in a PDF file. I don't know how that works, but it looks like you can do it. Okay, so those are your file sources. Database sources, of course, you can connect to SQL Server databases, Access. There's all these different types of databases, whether it's IBM or MySQL. I can kind of scroll on down. A lot of these databases I'm not even familiar with, right? But you can see there's a lot of database connectors that work right out of the box. And you're not even limited to this. You can build your own connector just using a database connection string or a server connection string if whatever you're looking for isn't in this list. Okay. This Power Platform here, as you build and store kind of pre-built queries and data sets within Power BI, you can connect to those over and over and over again through the Power Platform. If you're a big Azure shop and you've got a bunch of stuff in SQL Azure or Microsoft Azure, right, you've of course got the ability to connect to all that Microsoft data. Online services, though, is kind of where I wanted to go. This is a list of some of the large service providers who have probably paid Microsoft to have their logo in here, right? But who knows? At the end of the day, you can see here, I've got Salesforce that I can connect to. I've got some Google Analytics data if I want to pull that into my reports. Internally here at informXL, we use QuickBooks Online. So, if I wanted to connect and build my own reports on some of our QuickBooks data, I can do that through that link here. Kind of coming down. Unfortunately, these are not alphabetical. My guess is you pay a little more to be up at the top. But I know SurveyMonkey was in here. I saw that yesterday or earlier. So there's all sorts of data sources that you can connect to. Okay. In my example here, I'm going to connect to a SQL Server database. I'm going to connect to the informXL data mart because that data is already ready to go. And I don't have to do a whole lot of querying. I don't have to do a whole lot of transforming of the data. I can just work with it. Okay. So I'm going to choose SQL Server database. I hit connect. Okay. It's going to ask me for my server. So I'm going to say localhost. Okay. And then my database, informXL_DM. So there's my data mart. Okay. I'm going to click OK. So it's now going to go out to my data mart and it's going to connect and it's going to try to find all the different data tables that are in there for me to be able to work with. So what I've got here is a list of all of the different views and tables that I can work with. And again, in that data mart, we've pre-aggregated a lot of stuff. So, and if you wanted to look at project costs and bring over kind of summary project costs, or maybe you're wanting to look at, I think we got some lot budget information, right, or lot costs, you can bring that in. But I'm just going to go ahead and keep this really simple. And I'm going to just go get sales data from the sales table. Okay, so I'm going to say sales summary. Okay, and I filtered that out, and I'm going to just go get data from my sales summary NSS data table. Okay, so I just click on that. Okay, and now I've got two choices down here. I can load it, start building the report right away, or I can transform the data. Now, I told you I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but I think it would be unfair for me to not talk about transforming data, because transforming data, or you'll hear the phrase modeling the data, is an important process and sometimes can take a while, right? It's part of the query building, the data cleansing process that is important that I make sure that I communicate to you, even though I didn't want to go into all the detail. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this transform data, okay? And this is going to take me into the Microsoft Power Query Editor. And the whole point of the Power Query Editor is to allow you to take data, raw data, and query it further, and even join data from maybe other sources into this data set. It's going to allow you to clean the data. It's going to allow you to do aggregations on the data. It's going to allow you to do basically query functions on whatever data that you are working with. Historically, if I was doing this demo 5 years ago, I wouldn't have opened this up. I would have opened up Microsoft SQL Server and started writing SQL code. So this Power Query Editor is essentially Microsoft's, we'll call it an alternative to writing raw SQL code. A lot of folks are turned off by raw SQL, right? Having to write code. And I don't, I work in SQL. I don't find it to be terribly difficult to learn or work with. But a lot of folks really prefer, especially business users, prefer to query data using a front-end application like you're seeing here, right? If I wanted to filter the data out to just a certain subset, if I wanted to transform the data, there's all these menus up top here, right? And I'll be honest with you, I'm not an expert in this particular utility here because I write SQL code, but nonetheless, the whole point of the Power Query Editor is to give you the opportunity to pretty much code-free start to query the data, join the data, aggregate the data that you ultimately want to bring into your report. Okay, so I mentioned that I'm not going to spend much time in here, and I'm not, but I did want to highlight this, and I want to make certain that everybody understands when I talk about that report creator being a little more technical, this is what I mean. They've got to drive their queries utilizing a tool like this. Okay, and it takes some time and a little bit of training, excuse me, to kind of get used to. Okay, but it's not terribly difficult. All right, so once I've written my query, I've transformed my data, I've cleaned it up, whatever I need to do, right? At this point, I'm ready to close and apply. Okay, so now it's loading the data from my sales summary data table into Power Query or sort of Power BI, and now it's ready to work with. Okay, and I know that it's ready to work with because over on the right-hand side, I now have a data table, sales summary NSS. Let me give us a little more space here. Okay. So building out a visualization or a report in Power Query is not a whole lot different than building pivot tables or pivot charts in Excel. So if any of you are experts with the analyzers already in building pivot charts and pivot tables, this will be a fairly intuitive kind of transition for you. Okay, so I'm going to build out just a couple of elements in here. I'm going to go get, and this is just all the fields that are available to me in this table. I'm going to go get my net sale. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and click on that. Okay, and you'll notice as soon as I start clicking, stuff starts happening in my canvas here. So I'm going to get my net sale. The next thing I'm going to get is going to be my sales office. Okay, so just add that. Boom, check it out. It's already starting to build stuff for me. So here's my net sales by sales offices. Okay, maybe I want another visualization in here. And so instead of doing a visual, and you can see there's all sorts of different visual tools I can use, I'm just going to do a raw data table. Okay, let's build this out here. In fact, I'll expand that out. And in my data table, I want to put my subdivision. Go ahead and add my subdivision. And we'll get a little bit more detailed in this table here than we did in the chart. Okay, my subdivision, I'm going to put my base model price. My base model price. Okay, there it did. There it is. It popped in my table. I'm going to put my options. Let's see, my total buyer options. Okay, I'm going to put my net sale. Okay, and then maybe I will, oh, wait, I want some incentives. Probably my total incentives there. Okay, and I'm going to move that back up. Okay, and then the last thing I'll do is I'll put my lot, and that kind of blasts this thing out, but I am going to do a count of lots. Okay, so you can see here now I've got a little data table that I've built. So my report has got a chart, it's got a data table. The nice thing is, as you start to build your reports, Microsoft Power BI kind of instinctively knows how this data all kind of connects. And so as I start to click on my different communities here, you'll notice my data table is automatically filtering based on whatever it is that I'm clicking. Okay, I could add another data element here. Again, you know, I've got all sorts of different things that I can build, right? So go ahead and clear this back out. You'll spend some time, again, transforming your data, kind of bringing all the data elements together. You'll spend a little time building out the perfect report that you're looking for. Once you're done, you're ready to publish your report to your organization. You hit the publish button. That then takes this report and it makes it available out on the cloud, right, for your different users to access on their devices. Again, that's going to be your browsers, your phones, right? I mentioned Microsoft Teams. You can even publish through SharePoint, right? So the publish button is what's going to take it up into the cloud and make it available within the other 365 Office users in your company. Okay, so that's what the report creator is doing with Power BI. Let's look at how your users consume reports. Okay, now I didn't publish the report that I just created, right? But I've got some pre-built reports that we will take a look at. But I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide here because I want to talk about this slide again. So you might recognize this slide. I already talked about it. What is Power BI? Remember, it's interactive, it's highly visual, it's code free for the most part, it's cloud-based, integrated with Office. I've already talked about these things, but this integrated with Office part, right, is what I want to highlight here. This particular dashboard, I'm going to go and turn off my. You've probably noticed that I've had, dashboard images throughout the PowerPoint. Okay, these don't have to be static images. This is an actual dashboard that I have embedded into my presentation. Okay, check it out. I'm going to start clicking around in here. Okay, it's interactive. There's 2022. Maybe I want to just look at Thomas here. Okay, maybe I wanted to go to 2023. Okay, this is an embedded report right here in my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, and yes, it's an object that sits in here. Okay, I can open it up. I can even expand it, make it bigger. I can have this kind of cover the entire page. I'm going to go ahead and click on the link here though, and we're going to open this up in a complete browser. So it's going to get that dashboard. We're going to play around in a little bit. Okay, so it's the exact same dashboard that I had embedded into my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, and we're going to kind of step through this a little bit here. I've got the ability to filter out my project, of course, right? So maybe I just wanted to look at Coral Canyon or what have you, right? Go ahead and turn that back off there. So I've got my parameters up top. I've got some basic stats here. Okay. In this particular example, I've got sales and starts and closings. Every builder we work with needs to measure sales, starts, and closings. But we're not just going to show you in this case actual numbers. We're going to give you a budget or your business plan in addition to your actual. So remember, you can store business plans or KPIs in Microsoft Power BI. We even have an entire tool developed for storing and building KPIs and business plans through the informXL data mart to make it easy for you, right? But that's what this green line is my business plan that's pulling right out of my data mart database, okay? If I wanted to click on any of these elements, right? Remember, it's in an interactive environment, so maybe I wanted to, just pick on Thomas here, right? Or I wanted to look at just the month of March, right? I can certainly do that. We've got a data table, and even that is going to, of course, change up, right? As I use my my filters here. But in addition to having the data here, you can build any number of drill downs. We even build reports that we get folks down to transactional level data in their GL and their drill downs. But I'll show you an example here of a drill down for Stonegate Phase 7, Lot 807. Here's my buyer. Here's some basic information about this particular house. I'm just going to right click and say drill through. Okay, and I want to go to get some details about this Lot 807. So this is a sub report that I've now drilled down into for Lot 807. So there's my project, my lot. Okay, my home, my buyer is Giovanni here, Lopresti. I see my pricing data. I've got some dates information, some schedule, summary data, right, and a list of every option that this homeowner purchased. So just an example of a drill down, right? So you can do drill downs galore. You can do filters. You can, again, it's very interactive platform. Coming up to some of the features right here, and this is actually published through a Power App, right? So you can publish them straight through Power BI, or you can make them available through Power App. It's up to you. The environment's very similar, but one of the features here through the app is I can subscribe to the report. And we get asked this question on a regular basis for new users of the analyzers. Hey, can I automatically send a subscription out so that these people get the analyzer with these filters on it, every Monday at 8 a.m.? Unfortunately, the answer is no. I'm sorry, we don't have the ability to do that within Microsoft Excel and the analyzers, but you can certainly do it here in Power BI. So just come in, add a subscription, and I can say, hey, look, I want to have these folks subscribe to it, and they get it every Monday or daily or weekday or whatever it is at this certain time. It sends them a link, right? But again, it's so tightly integrated into Office that it's it's pretty much instantaneous, right? When you get the email, that reminder that you've got a new report to look at, you click the link in, it's going to bring you right in. Okay. You've got the ability to chat about some of these data elements in Teams. That's kind of nice because when something doesn't look right and you want to question a team member about maybe the validity of the data, you can kind of start you can start the conversation in Teams. You've got, of course, the ability to export this. Remember, I started this from a PowerPoint presentation, which I could put into PowerPoint as an image or live data, and that's the option that I chose when I embedded this report into my PowerPoint. You've got the ability to generate QR codes, which I think is kind of cool. I hadn't seen that. I actually ran into that last night. Maybe I just missed it over the last couple of years, but you've got the ability to create QR codes. So I guess if you think about maybe you're in a meeting with 100 people and everyone's looking at the board and you want to share this with everyone in the company, you don't have to send them a URL, you don't have to send them an email, right? Just tell them to take a snapshot of that QR code in their phone and boom, it will open up this report immediately, right? So, there's a lot of interaction between the filters and the drill throughs and the functionality that's kind of built into Microsoft Office, right? Lots that you can do here within this environment. Okay, this is a demo set, but what you would normally see in a typical environment, and you'll see in some of our static examples, is you can have a list maybe of departments. So maybe you have construction and marketing and sales, and underneath sales, there's 8 reports in there, right? So you can kind of create it's a menu essentially for the broader organization over here on the left, which is what we typically do when we're deploying these reports. Okay, so this is an example of a working Power BI report. Okay, we're going to move on now from Power BI. We're going to talk a little bit about Power Apps and Power Automate. Those are the next two kind of major components of the Power Platform. Before I go into Power Apps, let me talk for a second about Power Automate here. I'm not going to show examples of Power Automate, but at the end of the day, Power Automate is a workflow and automation engine that's built into Office. And the nice thing is you can create workflows for any data or anything that's happening within your system, right? So it could be something as simple as creating an automation that says, hey, when I log in the morning, I want to send an email to these 3 people saying good morning. Right? Or when a home closes, when you have a new closing date that you pick up in Newstar or in the Data Mart, I want you to send an email to these people, send a thank you to the customer, and order a gift on Amazon. Right? Now, the order gift on Amazon, I'm pretty certain it can happen, but it's incredible what you can do with Power Automate. You can automate almost any task, right, through this engine. And again, you're doing it the majority of it code-free. Okay, so it's a organizational-wide workflow tool. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say about Power Automate. The examples that I'm going to go into next are really focused on Power Apps. Okay, so what is Power Apps? Okay, it's a tool for building and deploying apps to share across your organization, and it carries many of the same properties that we saw with Power BI. It's very interactive. It's an app, right? You can develop the vast majority of your apps code-free, which is really nice. Think about being able to deploy a simple app to your sales office or your sales users, or maybe your construction folks, right? You develop it code-free, and that means affordable as well, right? So it's not expensive to develop these things. It's cloud-based, of course, so it's easily accessible, and the apps are also integrated with your Office 365 environment. Okay, so let's look at a couple of examples. The one that I had on the right, the one that I've got here on the right is an example of a deal sheet app that we've developed for a builder. And the whole idea here was a VP of sales wanted the ability to look at and kind of pre-approve sales deals without having to be on their PC. Okay, and so they open up their app on their phone. Okay, this has got a list of the different lots. You can click on a lot. Okay, it brings you into this next screen, and this is a deal approval screen, right? So it's going to give you some of the basic information about the house. You can counter it, you can approve it, right? And it's going to notify the sales agent who has asked you to approve a deal automatically. And so this is, again, a simple app that was developed for a specific approval process that one of our customers had. and they wanted the ability to have their managers, who are oftentimes not in the office, open up a phone and click a button, review deals and approve deals or reject deals right from their phone. Okay, so that's one example. Here's another example, and we called this a pre-construction scheduling app, but I'm going to call it a non-construction scheduling app for this purpose. If you think about, again, the majority, I think everyone on the call is a Neustar user. The majority of you, at least, are Neustar users. If you think about the schedule, your construction schedules that you utilize in Neustar or BuildPro, those are construction-focused schedules. Okay, we oftentimes hear from builders that they have, in addition to the primary construction schedule, they need to have little branch kind of schedules or task lists that branch off from that. Okay, so kind of a multi-tiered schedule. But unfortunately, we don't have a great way to do that. And so one of our builders contacted us and said, hey, look, we want to have a separate task list or schedule for multiple folks or departments within the organization that kind of branch off from our construction schedule that sits in our ERP solution, right? And this is what essentially we built for them. So you open up the community, you click on the lot. This is going to bring you into some of these little sub-schedules, and they could be schedules or they could just be a simple task list. Okay, so if I click on the contracts task list, right, it's going to bring me over to the list of all the things that have to happen on around the contract. Things like deposit, payment received. Is it done? Yes or no, right? We all have these little processes that some of them, we have automated, we have in spreadsheets, others, we just have to remember, oh, we signed a deal. I need to go ask so-and-so to start, to make sure that the deposit's been received or what have you, right? But we can automate and build into apps some of these kind of side schedules or these side task lists. And that's all you're seeing here is, again, a series of side tasks that need to occur for any given lot when certain things happen, right? So this is something we built out. This is another example that we built out recently. This is a really simple example of a option verification checklist. So we had a builder who was still kind of using an old school, more paper format to provide option lists to their superintendents to tell them exactly what needed to go into homes. And they just wanted an app that could be opened up, or a report that could be opened up essentially on their iPads to show the project and the lot. You can select that very easily here and show the list of all the options that are going to go into a specific house. They go through, they check off whether or not they're okay, right? You can enter notes, you can take pics, okay, of any of the options, right? So if there's a problem with the option, maybe the stove is, wasn't set correctly, or it's the wrong color or something like that, you can add a picture, you can add your notes, right? And then it notifies the folks that it needs to notify in the back office of whatever things need to be corrected. Okay, so just a simple checklist instead of being kind of the old school, more paper and phone based system. This is now just done in an app. Okay, and I'm going to open up real quickly here an example of an app just so you can see it in motion. This is just a concept app that we created for demo purposes, but I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Now it's going to open this app up, not in my phone, right? I could open it up in my phone and it would look, pretty much perfect. But this is opening up on the browser, right? Instead of the phone. But just kind of keep in mind that generally speaking, this concept app would be run on the phone. And the whole idea behind this app is to provide a tool for sales agents out in the field to access information, right? About the homes that they are selling. Okay, so I'm going to log into my app here. Okay. It brings me to this home page. I've got up top here just kind of a basic community lot status. So as the sales manager, I can see what I have currently available in my home. In my community, sorry, I can see some recent activity in my community. Okay, so what's happened recently? I've got a little menu up top here that will bring me down into a couple of things that I can do. I can look at sales commissions and think about, your sales folks, they live off of sales commissions. And my experience, and I've been in the business a long time, is that sales commissions have never really been reported well to your salespeople, right? And this is a simple app that could solve that problem. So this particular sales agent currently has 3 deals in which they are entitled to commissions on, right? That are, probably looking to close or they've just recently closed. Okay, and I can see what commissions I've got coming to me for these different lots and my buyers. Okay, if I want to report an issue, which there are oftentimes issues, I can click a button and send an email or send a notification to whoever it is that needs to look into an issue. If I want to look at my history, I can look at my history, right? So think about, these are tools that historically I've never seen, folks in the sales offices, the sales agents, et cetera, have access to this kind of easy information, right, through their phone. Coming back to kind of my homepage here, choose Community Snapshot. Community Snapshot might just be a place where your sales agents can get basic information, again, right there on their phone about the homes that are available in their communities. So I'm a sales agent, I'm grabbing lunch, somebody calls and says, hey, look, I need to ask if you have any spec inventory with a finished basement that's ready to close, right? Sure, you open up your phone, come to this screen here, and I can say, I want to look at my spec inventory. I've got these 3 spec homes. I click on my info button. It's going to bring me to a list of options. Yep, I've got this spec home here. It's getting ready to close, and it does have that finished basement option. So again, it's easy access to the information that is important to these folks. And we can't ask these folks out in the field to go open up an analyzer, log into a server, open up an analyzer, filter, right, to get all this information, right? This is 3 or 4 clicks on a phone, easy access to data through a Power App. Okay, so Power Apps can be informational reporting only, or you can actually write back data if you so choose. But again, think about it as an app that you would deliver generally on a phone. But there's plenty of apps that we've built that are PC based, right? But it's an app development tool. Okay. All right, so that pretty much wraps up what I had planned to present. Again, a high-level overview of Power BI, how it works, Power Apps, how it works, and what it is, how you subscribe to it, etc. We do have this final slide here, and unfortunately, I don't have a great way to share this with you, I think live right now, but we do have some resources available. The primary resource here, and a lot of these are just links back to Microsoft, that you can search that up yourselves, right? Data sources, this is a link to our website. But the one link that I want to make sure that everybody has access to is a link with the portfolio, some of the portfolio items of Power BI reports and Power Apps, just a handful of them that we have built over the years here at informXL. And we'll make this link available to everybody. And this is simply again, a portfolio that's got different sections, sales and margin dashboards, financial reporting dashboards, and you can just kind of flip through these and you'll recognize some of the examples popped in on my presentation today, right? And you can zoom in on these things, right? And then at the end here, we'll kind of flip right through. We even have some apps that we've built. And so Kay will make the link to this portfolio document available to everyone in the, I think you said, Kay, it's in the survey that will come out at the end of this?
The Survey Monkey she sends out, Blaine.
Okay, cool. All right, and then in addition to that, I do want to mention consulting services. So not everyone, again, is going to have that technical resource on staff to be able to kind of initiate a Power BI project with you or write all those reports that you want to write, whether it's because you don't have the technical resource on staff or maybe your technical resources are super busy, right? We're always here to help. HMS Cornerstone, so Stuart and Amy and the team is familiar with Power BI and Power Apps and Automate, and they can work with you. And then we at informXL have an entire team that's devoted specifically to delivering these sorts of solutions to our builders. That's our Envision Services team. And this is just a link to our respective websites. So if you need some help and you want to hire somebody who speaks home building, reach out to us, reach out to HMS Cornerstone, and we can get you rolling pretty quickly.
I think it's an excellent presentation, Blaine, and now I realize I could do all this myself without Amy.
All right. I don't know, Kate, did we have any questions pop up in our meeting today?
I do have one question, Blaine, even while Kay's looking. We're very familiar with your product. We like informXL a lot. The question I have is, does it work best using the data mart, or if I don't have the data mart, can I still use these BI tools?
If you don't have the data mart, you can use these BI tools, right?
Okay.
So let's say you're a Neustar user, you don't have the data mart, you can absolutely point Power BI directly to your Neustar database, okay? But take a deep breath and get ready. It's going to take you a lot of time, a lot of effort to consolidate all the data that you're looking for across the 1,500 tables that is Neustar, right? To ultimately get your reports, deal with all the business logic, et cetera, right? But you can do it. The data mart is going to take probably 90% of that effort out of the equation because we've already organized the data. So I always use the example, it's like doing long division, right? Versus using a calculator. If you don't mind doing long division, right, then hit a live database without a data mart. If you want to shortcut things and you just want to whip out your calculator and get to the answer, right, you'd probably want a tool like informXL Data Mart. But it is absolutely not required, Stuart.